5 years ago, when I had nothing and lost my job, I asked my siblings for their help, but they all refused. A cousin agreed to let me stay with her, so when she got married, I offered to pay for her honeymoon, and now my siblings are mad because I didn't get them anything big for their wedding and are cutting me off forever. Hi everyone, I'm Elena, 33 female, and I'm facing a really tough situation. I'm being cut off from all my siblings. Before you form an opinion about me, please take some time to understand my story. About 5 years ago, I hit rock bottom. It was before the pandemic, and life had thrown me some curveballs. I'd lost my job, my student loans were piling up like a mountain, and to make things worse, I'd racked up a pretty serious credit card debt. Back then, let's just say financial responsibility wasn't my strong suit. I lived way above my means, and it was catching up to me fast. I remember feeling like my spending was out of control. Mindless online shopping sprees had become my go-to for stress relief. A new pair of shoes? Sure, I needed those. That trendy restaurant everyone was talking about? Obviously had to treat myself. Fancy gadgets and the latest tech toys. They looked so cool, how could I resist? The bills eventually showed up, but I convinced myself I could handle it, that I would figure it out later. To add fuel to the fire, nights out were also a big weakness of mine. Weekends were meant for fun and quote-unquote fun usually included some very pricey cocktails and dinners I couldn't afford. It was the classic treat yourself mentality, but I took it to the extreme. I'd swipe my credit card without a second thought, ignoring the sinking feeling in my stomach. When it came to my social life, I had zero impulse control. Of course, all of this irresponsible spending caught up with me. The interest on my debt started snowballing. Bills piled up, and it felt like I was drowning. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and there never seemed to be enough to cover the basics, let alone my past mistakes. That feeling of being trapped in a financial mess was suffocating. Looking back, I cringe at my lack of foresight, because the truth is, I had dug my own hole. So when I lost my job, everything came crashing down for me. I couldn't even make rent. The weight of the world was suddenly on my shoulders, and I felt crushed by it all. My parents had died years ago in a car accident, leaving me without that safety net most people rely on in times of trouble. I felt lost, scared, and utterly alone. In desperation, I reached out to my brother and sister, hoping they would be my lifeline. I explained my situation and asked if I could stay with them for a short while, just until I got on my feet. It was the hardest, most humbling thing I've ever done, but the responses shattered me even further. My brother mumbled something about his apartment being too small, and that having another person there would simply disrupt his life. My sister said her husband wouldn't be comfortable with the arrangement, and that it might put a strain on their relationship. I could feel the unspoken words hanging in the air, that I was an inconvenience, a burden. Waves of shame and embarrassment washed over me. Here I was, their own flesh and blood, in dire need, and they were turning me away with flimsy excuses. My heart sank, and I remember fighting back tears as I ended the calls. Feeling completely abandoned by my own family, I didn't know where to run. But then, like a glimmer of light in the darkness, a cousin, Bridget, 33 female, reached out. She heard about my situation from my siblings and immediately offered me a place to stay. "You're family," she said, "and family takes care of each other." While I was immensely grateful for Bridget's kindness, I couldn't help but feel a deep pang of hurt and disappointment. My own brother and sister, the people I'd shared countless memories with, had let me down when I needed them the most. I struggled to understand how they could prioritize their own comfort over my own desperate situation. Now, I wasn't exactly mad at my siblings for telling me no. I understood their positions. I had dug my own hole with my financial mess, and the truth was, they had no obligation to bail me out. Still, I couldn't shake a deep sense of sadness and disappointment that washed over me. It wasn't about expecting my family to solve my problems, but that fundamental support, that feeling of "we'll get through this together," was missing. That hurt deeply. But then Bridget reached out, and it was like a ray of sunshine cutting through the clouds. I'll never forget her words. "Your family. and family takes care of each other. It lifted me up in a way I hadn't felt in weeks. I thanked her profusely, a mix of relief and gratitude bubbling within me. She had a guest bedroom, and she insisted that I could stay there, no questions asked, until I got back on my feet. Relief flooded my body. I had a safe place to land, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sliver of hope. While I was relieved, I was also determined to make the most of this opportunity and not take my cousin's generosity for granted. I couldn't pay rent or utilities, but I could contribute in other ways. I made a promise to myself. I would make myself as valuable and helpful as possible during my stay. First thing in the morning, I would make sure my cousin had a hearty breakfast ready before she left for work. After that, I would take care of cleaning, scouring the kitchen, scrubbing the bathroom, making sure her house was sparkling. Once those chores were done, I would head to the grocery store, carefully choosing ingredients for nutritious and tasty meals. I wanted her to come home to a warm, welcoming space, a sense of comfort after a long day. In the evenings, we'd cook together, sharing stories and laughter over steaming plates of food. Helping out like this wasn't just about repaying my cousin. It also gave me a sense of purpose. There was a strange satisfaction in transforming a messy house into a tidy haven and filling the air with the aroma of home-cooked meals. It was a way for me to show my gratitude and also to prove myself that I was capable of taking care of things, of contributing something valuable. But I wasn't just focused on housework. During those first few weeks at Bridget's, I resolved to turn my life around. I was determined to climb out of this financial hole and learn from my mistakes. I spent hours scouring the internet for free resources, articles, and anything that could teach me about budgeting, investing, and building a more stable financial future. I would always be decent with numbers, but now, my motivation was burning stronger than ever. I stumbled upon the world of trading, stocks, options, the whole 9 yards. It was intimidating at first. All those charts and terms I didn't understand, but something about it sparked my curiosity. So, I started small, using simulated accounts to practice. With each trade, win or lose, I learned a little bit more. I discovered a hidden part of myself, one that enjoyed the strategy and the mental challenge of it all. To bring in some income, I also landed a part-time job working as an accountant for a local company. It wasn't glamorous, and the pay wasn't stellar, but it provided a steady paycheck. Most importantly, it gave me structure, something I desperately needed. With each day, I was saving money, rebuilding my credit, and cautiously dipping my toes into the world of trading. The journey wasn't without its challenges. That old familiar urge to spend would rear its head sometimes. I would walk past a store, see a display, and feel the pull of my old habits. It took everything I had to walk away, to remind myself of the humiliation I felt when I lost everything. Those memories were like a bitter medicine, unpleasant, but ultimately what I needed to heal my relationship with money. Sometimes, even a trip to the grocery store was a battleground. I would see those tempting snacks or a new gadget I absolutely didn't need, and the struggle would be real. But I would make a list, stick to it with a laser focus, and ignore those flashy displays designed to suck me in. I slowly discovered that not spending was just as satisfying, if not more so, than the fleeting high of buying something new. I stayed with Bridget for almost a year. It was a transformative year filled with hard work, self-discovery, and the unwavering support of someone who believed in me when I barely believed in myself. By the time I left, I had managed to pay off every penny of my credit card debt. I'd also saved up enough for a small apartment, a humble place, but it was mine. That sense of accomplishment, of standing on my own again, was indescribable. I thank Bridget with all my heart before moving out. That time with her ignited something in me, a determination to never be in that desperate position again. Since then, my life has been on an upward trajectory. I transitioned to a full-time position in accounting, providing stability as I continue to pursue trading on the side. In the past 4 years, trading hasn't just been a hobby. It became a true passion. My skills have grown, my strategies have become refined, and the results speak for themselves. I now make enough money from trading that I am seriously considering quitting my accounting job to focus on it full-time. It's a scary thought, leaving the security of a steady paycheck, but there is a thrill in the possibility of creating my own path. Wanting to share what I've learned, I decided to start a YouTube channel dedicated to teaching others about trading. It's been incredibly fulfilling, helping beginners navigate this complex world. And the channel has even brought in some extra income on the side. My life looks radically different now compared to those dark days of debt and despair. I have financial stability, a growing skill set, and most importantly, I've regained my confidence. I'm a living proof that even the deepest financial holes can be overcome, and that our biggest setbacks can become the catalyst for our greatest transformations. Over the past 5 years, my relationship with my siblings hasn't completely healed. We see each other at family functions, exchanging the usual pleasantries and forced smiles. There's a lingering distance between us, a reminder of the time that I needed them, and they weren't there. But I've learned to accept it, to focus my energy on the people who truly have my back. The cousin who opened her home to me has become more like a sister than ever before. We meet up at least twice a month, sharing meals, laughs, and the kind of unconditional support that can only be found in true family bonds. She was my maid of honor when I got married last year, a shining symbol of the love and loyalty that got me through the toughest of times. Speaking of my wedding, I feel like the luckiest woman in the world. I married Derek, 37 male, an amazing man who is not only kind and supportive, but also a brilliant investment banker. His financial expertise complements my own journey, and we make a powerful team, tackling our goals and dreams together. Our wedding was small, but absolutely perfect, a celebration of commitment set amidst the stunning backdrop of the California coastline. Derek is my rock, my biggest cheerleader. He's incredibly intelligent, with a sharp wit that keeps me on my toes. He's also endlessly patient, understanding that my past financial struggles have left some lingering anxieties. Derek inspires me to be the best version of myself, both as a trader and as a wife. Life now feels truly abundant. I have a loving husband, a fulfilling career, and a strong financial foundation. Yet, I'll never forget where I came from and the lessons learned during my darkest hours. It's those lessons that make me appreciate what I have all the more, and the drive to share my knowledge, to be the helping hand for others that my cousin was for me. Last weekend was a whirlwind of joy and celebration, Bridget's wedding. As her maid of honor, I was thrilled to be by her side on this special day. She chose a picturesque local farm as the venue, and the whole setting was simply magical. Rustic decorations, twinkling fairy lights, and the sweet scent of wildflowers filled the air. It felt like something out of a fairy tale. Bridget looked radiant in her flowing white gown, her smile brighter than ever. The ceremony was heartfelt and filled with laughter and happy tears. After the vows, the reception was a blast. Delicious food, heartfelt speeches, and endless dancing under the starry night sky. It was a night we would all remember for years to come. Before the wedding, I'd thrown Bridget the bachelorette party of her dreams, a weekend getaway to a cozy cabin by the lake, complete with a spa treatment, hilarious games, and plenty of bubbly. I also organized a beautiful bridal shower filled with thoughtful gifts and heartfelt wishes. But the biggest surprise was something Derek and I had been keeping under wraps. We wanted to make Bridget and her new husband's honeymoon truly unforgettable. So we decided to pay for their trip to Greece. I revealed the gift at the bridal shower, and Bridget was absolutely ecstatic. She couldn't stop hugging me, tears of joy steaming down her face. Knowing we could give them this incredible experience filled my heart with warmth. Seeing Bridget so happy and surrounded by love on her special day made me think back on my own journey. It reminded me of the kindness that lifted me up, the importance of cherishing true bonds, and how our experiences, even the difficult ones, shape who we become. It was a beautiful reminder that even after the darkest of storms, the sun always finds a way to shine through. My sister was at her bridal shower as well, and when she saw that I had gifted Bridget a trip to Greece, she wasn't happy. While everyone else was congratulating Bridget and gushing over the amazing surprise, my sister's reaction felt like a bucket of ice water. She didn't say anything outright, but as I got up to go to the bathroom, her snide comment drifted towards me, Lucky Bridget that she was able to get this for her. My real siblings didn't get anything good. A surge of anger boiled within me. Did she really just try to undermine my joy in giving my friend a special gift? I felt the familiar sting of disappointment, the old wound of our strained relationship reopening. It would have been easy to fire back a hurtful remark, to let the resentment spill out. But I took a deep breath and made a conscious choice. I wasn't going to let my sister's negativity ruin Bridget's special day. This celebration was about love and friendship, not about settling old scores. Besides, I knew deep down that her words were laced with bitterness that had nothing to do with me. I refused to let her drag me back into that place of conflict. So I simply ignored her comment, lifted my chin, and returned to the celebration with a smile. I focused on the laughter, the happy faces, and the outpouring of love for Bridget. That's where my energy belonged. That's what deserved my attention. Choosing to walk away wasn't about weakness. It was about strength. The strength to protect my own peace and prioritize the joy of the moment. Bridget's wedding should have been filled with pure joy, but my siblings decided to make it about themselves. They cornered me during the reception, their faces twisted with resentment. Their accusations flew like daggers. Now that I was quote-unquote rich, shouldn't I be upgrading their wedding gifts? I was stunned. What are you even talking about? I asked, confusion mixing with rising anger. They started ranting about how I'd only gotten them quote-unquote cheap gifts for their own weddings. My cheeks burned. I distinctly remembered poring over their wedding registries, carefully selecting thoughtful presents within my budget at the time. How dare they call those gifts cheap now? My sisters then brought up the honeymoon trip to Greece, her voice dripping with bitterness. That wasn't on Bridget's registry, was it? But she still got it. A wave of frustration and disbelief washed over me. Why were they comparing themselves to my friend? This was Bridget's special day, and their pettiness was threatening to tarnish it. This is ridiculous, I snapped. I don't want to create a scene at her reception, so back off. My heart was pounding with a mix of anger and hurt. How could they be so blind to their own behavior? When I was at my lowest point begging for help, they turned their backs on me. Yet now they seemed to think that they were entitled to extravagant gifts because my life had improved. Their lack of self-awareness was astounding. I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm myself. I wasn't going to let them ruin Bridget's wedding or drag me into a petty fight. With a newfound resolve, I turned away from them and walked back towards the celebration. Their accusations and jealousy were their burden to bear, not mine. My focus now was on celebrating the love between Bridget and her husband, and the true bonds of friendship that had truly stood the test of time. The day after the wedding, the phone rang, and my sister's name flashed on the screen. I braced myself, knowing this conversation wasn't going to be pleasant. Her voice was sharp and demanding. "You owe us a proper wedding gift. It's not fair that you spent all that money on Bridget and barely gave us anything." A surge of anger washed over me. "Are you serious right now?" I retorted. "This whole conversation is ridiculous. It's my money and I can choose to spend it however I please. Why on earth would I owe you an expensive gift?" She stammered, fumbling for justifications. "Well, you're doing well now, and she's not even your real family." The absurdity of her words made my head spin. Was she implying that my chosen family, the ones who were there for me during my darkest hours, were less deserving than those connected by blood alone? Exasperation fueled my response. Bridget was there when I had nothing, when I lost my job, when I was drowning in debt. She was the one who opened her home to me. My own siblings, including you, slammed the door in my face. She never asked for anything, supports me unconditionally, and is the best friend anyone could ask for. That's why she deserves everything and much more. My sister sputtered out more excuses, but her words were empty. I'd finally reached my breaking point. This wasn't just about a honeymoon trip. It was about the hypocrisy, the entitlement, and the years of pain bubbling to the surface. I was done with the guilt trips, done trying to appease them. It was time to set a firm boundary. She then pulled the "blood is thicker than water" card, urging me to move on from the past. The irony of her words nearly made me laugh. "Hypocritical, isn't it?" I shot back. "To tell me to forget the past when you were so quick to abandon me when I needed you the most." A tense silence hung in the air before she exploded with a venomous threat. "Fine, if you're going to cling to the past and deny your own family, then we're cutting you off. Forever." My stomach twisted. Even though I'd steel myself for this, hearing those words sliced through me. Was I wrong to stand my ground? Was this all a terrible mistake? A wave of self-doubt threatened to crash over me. But as she slammed down the phone, a defiant fire sparked within me. Yes, I could afford to appease their demands, to buy their forgiveness with lavish gifts. But at what cost? It would be a betrayal of myself, of the lessons I learned the hard way. Their behavior wasn't just about a wedding gift. It was a pattern, a deep-rooted disregard for my feelings and my experiences. Am I in the wrong here? What should I do now? Hi everyone, it's been a few days since I shared my story. I'm overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. Many of you have advised me to cut my siblings off forever. While I do understand the sentiment, it's easier said than done. You see, I don't have a huge extended family. Cutting them off would mean isolating myself from my nieces and nephews, innocent kids who I love dearly. Pulling away from them completely seems cruel and unfair, and it isn't something I'm ready to do unless it becomes the absolute last resort. There's a part of me that still clings to the hope that maybe, just maybe, things could change. Perhaps one day, they'll recognize their hurtful behavior, and a reconciliation could be possible. Of course, that hope might be naive, but completely abandoning it feels too harsh, especially where the kids are concerned. For now, I'm focusing on settling healthy boundaries. It's clear that my siblings have a distorted sense of entitlement and don't understand the concept of unconditional support. My well-being, both emotional and financial, needs to be my priority. I know that saying no and standing firm can be difficult, but it's a skill I desperately need to learn. If they continue to cross those boundaries, and especially if they try to use my nieces and nephews as emotional leverage, then I'll have to reevaluate my stance. But for now, I'm giving myself permission to take things one step at a time. I'm holding onto a sliver of hope, prioritizing my own well-being, and refusing to let their toxic behavior dictate my choices or my happiness. I confided in Bridget about the whole situation, and her reaction was pure gold. At first, she burst out laughing, the absurdity of it all hitting her like a wave. "Elena," she gasped between chuckles, "they're acting like spoiled children. It's your money, your life, and your choice who you spend it on." A warmth spread through me at her unwavering support. With typical Bridget kindness, she immediately offered, "If it will make things easier for you, I can refuse the honeymoon trip. I don't want this to cause a rift between you and your family." "Absolutely not," I exclaimed, a fierce protectiveness rising within me. "This is my gift to you, and I want you to enjoy every moment of that trip. Don't you dare feel guilty." Her genuine happiness mattered more than my siblings' petty grievances. In that moment, the contrast between Bridget and my siblings couldn't have been starker. While my siblings were consumed by jealousy and entitlement, Bridget radiated warmth and generosity. She embodied the true meaning of family, not by blood, but the kind of love that showed up in actions, not demands. It made their behavior seem even more childish and selfish by comparison. Bridget changed the subject, her natural optimism shining through. She started excitedly asking about details for her Greek honeymoon, and soon I found myself caught up in the planning seaside dinners and dreamy Santorini sunsets. Her joy was contagious, and it served as a powerful reminder of why I made the choices I did. Sometimes, the best way to fight negativity is to simply focus on the light that truly matters. I understand that there's no easy fix here. This isn't about a single incident, but years of hurt and unfulfilled expectations. I'm committed to finding a way to navigate this, to choose a path that honors both my need for self-preservation and my desire to maintain some connection, however limited, with the bits of family I have left. While cutting ties completely remains on the table as a last resort, it's not where I want to start. If any of you have advice or strategies for navigating this tricky situation, I'm all ears. It had been a week since my sister told me that she was cutting me off. Since my siblings hadn't made any effort to reach out, I decided to take the initiative. I called my sister and, keeping my tone carefully neutral, asked if I could visit her sometime soon. I also suggested she invite my brother. After a brief hesitation, she agreed and abruptly hung up. I knew this conversation wasn't going to be easy, but I had a plan in mind. I wanted to find a way to appease my siblings without compromising my own values or feeling completely resentful. It was a delicate balance. The night before my visit, I sat with Derek brainstorming and, together, we landed on an idea that felt both practical and meaningful. Yesterday, I drove to my sister's house alone. I wanted to avoid putting Derek in the middle of this awkward family drama. As I knocked on her door, my nerves were jangling, but I forced myself to take a deep breath and focus on my purpose. My sister opened the door, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. I tried to keep my expression open and friendly. "Can I come in?" I asked. She stepped aside wordlessly. A tense silence hanging between us as I entered the familiar living room. I could practically feel the unspoken questions and accusations swirling in the air. It was time to address the elephant in the room. We went through the motions of awkward small talk, my brother joining us with a stiff nod. The tension was almost suffocating. My nieces and nephews, blissfully unaware of the adult drama, darted in and out, demanding snacks and attention. A wave of affection washed over me as they hugged me, their smiles bringing a bittersweet pang to my heart. Finally, unable to prolong the awkwardness any further, I cleared my throat. "Look," I began, "I know there's a lot of tension between us, but I want to try and find a way to move forward. I have something I would like to propose that I think can address some of your concerns." My sister and brother exchanged skeptical glances. I continued, "I'm going to set up college funds for each of your kids. I'll contribute a set amount every month, and with time and interest, it will grow into a substantial amount to help with their education." A ripple of surprise passed over their faces. My sister's expression softened ever so slightly. "Elena, that's really generous, but I don't understand." "Let me explain," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I love my nieces and nephews dearly. I want to invest in their futures and give them a head start. This also helps address the issue of gift imbalances, without me feeling like I'm just giving in to unreasonable demands." I watched as they processed this. It was a strategic move, of course. I genuinely wanted to help my nieces and nephews, but it also diffused the wedding gift argument, offering them something tangible without compromising my boundaries or rewarding their entitlement. My siblings' initial skepticism melted away, replaced by genuine gratitude. They hugged me tightly, their voices thick with emotion. "Elena, this is incredible, thank you so much," echoed through the room. Relief washed over me. We spent the rest of the afternoon chatting, the weight of resentment gradually easing. My siblings apologized for their behavior, acknowledging that they'd been unfair. While their words didn't magically mend the past, there was a sincerity in their tone that felt like a tentative step forward. As I left that evening, I couldn't help but feel a cautious sense of optimism. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of a new chapter. Not perfect, but a chance to build something healthier, built on mutual love and respect. Well, it's been 2 months since my last update, and my patience has reached its absolute breaking point. Last week, my sister called, starting with the usual pleasantries and asking about my life. Then the real reason for her call surfaced. She wanted to know when she would be receiving the first deposit for her kids' college fund. Trying to keep my tone even, I told her, "I'm not sending you any money." I explained again that I would be setting up the college funds independently, saving money on my own, and handing it directly to my nieces and nephews when the time came. Her anger flared instantly. "What, you don't trust me? You think I would steal my own kids' money?" By then, I had had enough. I wasn't going to debate, justify, or let her manipulate me. "I don't want to argue about this," I said firmly, and ended the call. Derek, seeing how upset I was, took matters into his own hands. He arranged a meeting with both my siblings, recognizing how much this whole situation was weighing on me. It took hours of heated discussions, more accusations, and even a few tears on my part. Finally, I laid down an ultimatum. If my sister couldn't respect my decision on how to manage the college funds, I would abandon the idea altogether and book a luxurious trip for Derek and me instead. Reluctantly, she backed down. There's still resentment in the air, a lingering bitterness that may never completely fade. Honestly, I've given up the hope of a warm sisterly bond. While I don't want to cut her off, I'm also done with pouring energy into a relationship that causes me so much pain. Moving forward, I'll maintain a polite distance. I'll love my nieces and nephews, contributing to their futures in my own way. I may not get the picture-perfect family I once desired, but I found my own kind of peace by setting boundaries and refusing to be dragged back into old patterns of resentment and guilt. I won't be posting any more updates, but I want to thank all of you for all your support and guidance. That was a wrap up for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We'll be seeing you in the next one.